Arc Sys games have a long history of instant kill attacks. While a good number of them are really cool, some of them are kinda weird. And I don't mean weird in the Relius' creepy science dungeon kinda weird, I mean weird in the way they function. Starting all the way back in Guilty Gear The Missing Link, there have been some odd implementations of instant kills. So I wanted to go through the history of instant kills, astrals, etc., and talk about all the strange and bizarre instant kills of the past. So let's start, of course, at the very beginning. Missing Link instant kills are pretty infamous by now. Most of you already know that when you get hit by an instant kill in Missing Link, you lose the game. Not the round, the game. But what you may not know is how you actually land these instant kills. In order to land an instant kill, you'll need to land an instant kill attack, done by doing quarter circle forward punch plus kick. These attacks are character specific and some are amazing. For example, Baldhead's IK reaches super far and is an extremely low profile. Others, not so much. Biken's has no range and doesn't low profile at all. Once you land an instant kill attack, the opponent gets put into a Sakai state. Both players need to input a quarter circle forward punch plus kick. For the attacker, this causes them to dash forward and attempt to IK. For the defender, it causes them to perform a dodge. If you fail to perform the dodge, you die. IKs are decently reactable, so it's not too hard to dodge. But still, it is very dangerous. Now, in any sane game, you would assume the game would reset to neutral if you managed to dodge an IK. But we're talking about Missing Link here, and this game is a mess. If Chip and Kai land their instant kill, you might be screwed even if you do dodge. Chip is fast enough to do his IK, miss, and then run up and punish you for dodging. And Kai can loop IKs on certain characters because their dodge is too slow. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, IK dodges are character specific because of course they are! But wait, there's one other way you can access your instant kill, and that is by instant blocking. You heard that right. You are in danger of getting IK'd if your opponent instant blocks. Use it now. Though, thankfully, it can only happen while standing and outside of block stun. But still, imagine you throw out a poke in neutral at the start of round 1 and all of a sudden you lose the entire game. You have to constantly be on the lookout for instantaneous defeat and be ready to dodge. This IK system is, in my opinion, a complete mess. Thankfully, it seems like Arc Sys agreed with me because the IK system got completely reworked in Guilty Gear X. This game started the IK system most old-school Guilty Gear games follow. You activate your IK mode, sacrificing your meter, and then you perform your IK attack. Most IKs in X and XX are pretty straightforward, but there are a few standout mentions. First up, Chips. You'd assume this high-speed ninja would have a pretty fast IK, right? Well, his IK activation is extremely slow, taking more than a full second to complete. And, if that weren't bad enough, Chips' instant kill takes almost an entire second to go active. It means that his instant kill is the slowest normal instant kill in the game. So even if you do manage to stun someone, they'd have to be asleep at the wheel to get hit by it. I have to wonder, has anyone aside from ABBA players been hit by this in competitive play? The second IK on this list is actually a lot more practical than most other IKs, but it's unique in its execution. Order Soul's instant kill, Dragon Install Sakai, is a super you activate when you have 100 tension and level 3 charge. Order Soul's character-specific resource. Once it lands, the super becomes what's known as a Deadly Rave, named after Geese's super of the same name, where you have to hit buttons in sequence in order to complete the super. If you mess up the button press, Order Soul falls down and can be punished. But if you land the full thing and the opponent is at 50 or less health, it'll automatically transition into an instant kill. There hasn't really been another instant kill like this, and goddamn is it cool as hell. The third IK on this list is also unique, but unlike Dragon Install Sakai, it is completely impractical. Dizzy's instant kill is unique in that Dizzy does not have an instant kill state. Instead, the instant kill requires 100 meter and has an interesting input. That input is charge down, then up, left, right, down, punch, and a heavy slash.
What the hell is this?
So first you have to do a ridiculous input for the super, which the only way you're going to perform this is if you do it from a respect or a taunt so that you don't jump. And on top of that, the move takes 100 plus frames to start up. To put that in perspective, that's more than a second and a half. This is a move that is training mode only. I'd pay real money to see someone actually land this in a real match. Instant kills continue to evolve with Arc Sys' next fighting game, Hokuto no Ken. The system may seem a bit strange, but it's actually really flavorful. Under your health bar, you have the 7 stars of Hokuto, or the Big Dipper. Certain attacks remove stars from the gauge, and when all 7 stars have been removed, the Star of Death appears. In Hokuto no Ken, when someone can see the Star of Death, it means they're probably going to die. Once the Star of Death appears, you can perform your, aptly named, Fatal KO technique. Most of them are pretty straightforward, and some of them are very, very strong. More importantly, it's fairly simple to combo into them, unlike in the older games where you couldn't combo into instant kills. But there's one exception. Mamiya's Fatal KO is very complicated compared to every other character in the game. First, she throws a little bottle filled with poison in the air. Then, she has to shoot the bottle with her crossbow. Finally, the contents of the bottle have to actually hit the opponent for them to be Fatal KO'd. I just don't understand. In a game with Ken, Raoh, and Toki's Fatal KOs, how did Mamiya's end up like this? Why is her Fatal KO the most complicated one in the game? How do you even combo into this thing without some jank as hell setup? Just another example of sexist game design. I'm only partially joking about that, by the way. Mamiya's the only character in the game that can't throw people. While Fatal KOs are pretty infamous, there's another instant death super in Hokuto no Ken that doesn't get talked about a lot. Okay, maybe instant isn't the right word. Kenshiro has a super, Hokuto Zankai Ken. It's very slow and can only hit people who are standing, unless you're Mr. Hart. We're already off to an excellent start. When it does hit, a timer starts for the opponent as Kenshiro tells his opponent they will die in 3 seconds. Except it's not 3 seconds, it's more like 20 seconds. So not only do you need to land this slow as all hell move, you then need to survive for those 20 seconds afterwards. And this is Hokuto no Ken, a game filled to the brim with touch of death combos. When the timer runs out, your opponent dies. Unless you're Salder. It doesn't work on him because... well, that's spoilers, and I don't want to spoil it for the new Hokuto no Ken anime. It's an extreme gimmick super, to be sure. In fact, there's a rather famous match of Hokuto no Ken where a Ray player manages to kill Kenshiro before the Zankai Ken timer goes off. Only to be immediately Fatal KO'd the next round. Now this last move is pretty unique because unlike every other move on this list, this is a self-instant kill. Shin has a move where if he's out of stars, he can perform it and perform a Fatal KO on himself. Now, you may be asking, why the hell would you do that? And good question. Whenever a new round starts in Hokuto no Ken, you gain back 1 star. Unless you were hit by a Fatal KO, then you gain back all your stars. Now, this would be a nice thing for Shin to do if he wanted to get back all of his stars before the next round. Except there's one major problem. It's way too slow, and they'll just kill you before you can do it. Still, it is a nice little flavorful touch based on his actual death in the series. Arc Sys continued this trend into the next game, Sengoku Basara X. I tried finding some funny or weird things about IKs in this game, but honestly, it's just not all that interesting. There's a character who can unblockable loop you into his IK, so that's something, I guess. Moving on to Arc Sys' next big IP, BlazBlue, Astral finishes were kind of terrible in Calamity Trigger. You had to be in the last round of the game in order to even gain access to them, and most of them were way too slow to combo into. On top of that, a lot of them had really weird inputs. Prime example, Jin. Jin's Astral was a 720 in Calamity Trigger, and I could kinda understand it. It's a grounded unblockable, so it's basically a command grab. But you know who else has a 720 for an Astral? Hakumen! It's a counter Astral. How are you supposed to counter on reaction with a 720? Noelle's Astral also has a really weird input. Charge down, and then go up and mash C. That took me a good 10 minutes to get this input to come out. Terrible. But wait, there's worse. Tigger's Astral input is... oh boy. Press ABC and then mash D. Just... what can I even say about this? Why? Just... why? Now there's one other weird input that is a bit of a unique case. Kaka's Astral is done by holding back and then going to down and then up. The input isn't all that bad, but the weird part is that it hasn't changed at all. Those other inputs I mentioned did eventually change, but Tao's Astral input has remained the same all the way to Central Fiction. Why her Astral specifically? I don't know. But many Tao players bemoan the fact that it's remained the same, as it's very awkward to route into. Speaking of awkward, Arakune and Carl's Astrals function somewhat bizarrely. Arakune's Astral turns him into a gigantic eyeball, and then he randomly moves around the screen. If you block the first time, you get guard broken, and you'll die if you get hit, obviously. But you can't get a consistency out of it because it's random. He chooses where he goes, and sometimes he just ignores the opponent entirely. Carl's Astral involves him turning Nirvana into a bomb, and if the bomb doesn't connect, Nirvana is gone for the rest of the round.
Are you okay, Sys?
I am dead. Not a big surprise.
So, these two Astrals are completely impractical, even by the standards of Calamity Trigger Astrals. And it's especially funny because these two characters are completely busted in Calamity Trigger. You'd never have a reason to do an Astral in the first place, because you just straight up killed them anyways. They did actually buff Carl's Astral in CS, where the timer got sped up, but even then it's not good. On a fun note, Hazma's Astral shares the same input with the infamous Raging Storm from Geese Howard. If you watch the animation, you can see Hazma do something similar to the Raging Storm. If I had a nickel for every time someone's instant kill referenced Geese Howard, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice, you know? From Chrono Phantasma onward, most Astrals were made pretty standard. However, there are 2 minor examples I wanted to bring up. First up, when Noelle got her new outfit without the hat, her Astral got turned into a counter. That means she couldn't combo into it anymore, which prevented her from finishing the opponents in style. Except, you can select Noelle's old outfit instead, and you get access to the old version's Astral, which is a strike. On top of that, you still keep the counter Astral. So this means that Hat Noelle is objectively a better character than No Hat Noelle. Finally, for BlazBlue, Kokonoi's Astral is unique in that you can't ever true combo into it. It's a command grab, which means it follows the rules of grabs and can be teched even if you try and grab people in hit stun. If you want to know more about how BlazBlue throws work, go check out my video over here. I guess they wanted to show where Tigger got his 720 tech from? Then again, given how Kokonoi initially released, maybe they didn't want to give her even more power. Persona 4 Arena followed BlazBlue's examples when it came to instant kills, except in one major department. They're all ridiculously slow and you can't combo into them. There are a few standout weird IKs in this game, starting with Teddy's. At first glance, it doesn't seem too odd. Teddy summons his persona to slam down on top of the opponent, then launches into the sky like a firework. Except, it can only hit people who are on the ground, it's blockable, and it's only active for, wait for it, a whopping 1 frame. Why 1 frame? Was 2 just too much for this move? Next up, Elizabeth. Elizabeth has a counter instant kill similar to Hakumen's. But where Hakumen's activates off a single strike, Elizabeth needs to get hit 3 times in order for the counter to trigger. And then, when you do actually trigger it, there's a gap between the activation and the actual attack. So, if you're on the ball, you can just invuln right through it on reaction. What a great counter! Akihiko's Astral has a somewhat funny property in that his persona vacuums you in, and if you touch the unblockable globe, you die. Except, you can just kind of backdash the whole duration and nothing will happen. The vacuum's not that strong. Finally, we have Naoto, who probably has the worst IK in the game. Naoto's persona comes out and summons targets on the screen that are entirely unblockable. You get tagged, and you die. Problem is, the targets are hilariously easy to dodge. And I mean hilariously easy. You can choose where they come out by holding the stick left or right, but still, even if you do that, they'll probably just miss anyways. You generally have to be asleep at the wheel to get hit by this. And the best part? Naoto has IK supers that are way better. Granted, they're conditional IKs and only work when you reduce the opponent's fate count to 0. That's probably why her IK is so exceptionally bad. Unfortunately, when Exer dropped, most IKs were made pretty standard, and the same sort of trend continued with BB Tag. Thankfully, there's one final IK I want to talk about, and it's a character who's very close to my heart. IKs in Exer all have the strike property, so they are able to be blitzed on reaction, with one exception. Pot's IK has the glorious benefit of being a comboable throw that can hit people not on the ground. That means that Pot's IK is the only IK in the game you cannot blitz. So, if you land a buster, go for a safe jump and YRC on the way down and see that they blitzed. Sadly, IK seem to be a thing of the past for Arc Sys. COVID screwing development for Strive probably means that we won't ever see them at this point, and most other games don't seem to want to have instant kills anymore anyways. They may not have been the most viable tools in the game, but I won't lie. I do miss seeing people pop off when an IK lands in a tournament. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe.